All right, so this is going to be our first lesson in just straight up STAAR review. I've got the next 5 days to really go over one topic each day. Okay, I'm going to talk about Pythagorean Theorem. I'm going to talk about translations and all the transformations. I'm going to talk about algebra, which I think is important. I'm going to talk about the surface area and volume and all that kind of stuff. And you know, we're just going to really try to review one concept every day. I'm going to try to make a video every day. If I were you, I would take notes. Okay, you can look over your notes and you can watch a video. I have tons of kids who ask me, how can I study for the STAAR test? You really can't. It's hard to study for a STAAR test. You've got to know the concepts. You either know how to do the math or you don't. Okay, it's not like history where you can just study the dates, and memorize it and you're good. You've got to understand how these concepts work. Okay, and so what I'm trying to do is give you an outlet to, you have these notes over this concept, you've got this video over this concept, and you can look over those, you can rewatch the lesson, and that way you're not really so much studying as you are just preparing yourself for that particular concept on STAAR test day. Okay, for today, on day one, STAAR review. Gosh, my handwriting is awesome. Day one, STAAR review. We are going to talk about everyone's favorite theorem. All right. I don't think that this is too difficult. In fact, a lot of y'all seem to be doing okay with it, okay? But you saw in your benchmark it came up a few times, right? Probably 3 or 4 times, okay? So it is an important concept, okay? So that's one of the reasons I want to talk about it, okay? I think it's one of those concepts that we need to go in fully understanding, okay? If we can fully understand this and the other concepts we're going to talk about this week, everybody should reach that passing level, okay? We need to make sure we're focused up this week. Okay, I know we're getting off of spring break, all right, and everybody is still in break mode. We've got to make sure that we hit the gas pedal right here, okay, because we're at the finish line. Remember, I told you, you pass this first round of testing, and you're home free for the rest of math, okay? So let's get it past the first time. We don't have to worry about it as much. So, Pythagorean Theorem. First off, what is the Pythagorean Theorem?
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared. This is given to you on your formula chart. Okay, so we should have seen this at some point already. Okay, the little bit of vocabulary that we need to know for Pythagorean theorem is going to be, first off, we need to know what the legs are. The legs are going to be our A and B. Okay, how can I recognize what's the legs?
Like they're connected to like a 90-degree angle.
Yes, the legs, and I'll do them in red so you can see. The legs are the two sides that make the 90-degree angle. Does everybody see that? It's not too tough, right? Or is it? Is it? Okay, cool. All right. Then we have the hypotenuse. This makes our C. Okay, which is this. The hypotenuse is always opposite of the right angle, and it's always our longest side. Okay, so those are the things that we need to know here. The legs make the 90-degree angle. The legs make the 90-degree angle. The hypotenuse is opposite the 90-degree angle. And it's always the longest side. Everybody remembers those concepts, right? Perfect. All right. So, once you're able to identify your legs and your hypotenuse, you'll know what your A, your B, and your C are. Okay, and that helps us later on down the road. Now, what the Pythagorean theorem is telling us is that if you have a right triangle, and this works for any right triangle, if you were to take your A and square it, A squared, and then you were to take your B and square it, B squared, it's going to equal your C when you square it. And I'm going to run out of room, but that's fine. Okay? So if, and we'll just use it in terms of area here because that's what we're talking about. The area of this square and the area of this square will combine to make the area of this square. Okay? So if a lot of problems use the idea of paint when talking about area. If you were to paint this square here for A and this B square with paint, the same amount of paint that it took to do A and B is going to be the amount of paint you need for C. Okay? You will see this picture on the STAAR test. This picture right here will be on the STAAR test. Okay? Guaranteed. All right? And when you see it, you need to be able to, recognize it and, deal with it. Because one of the things they like to do with this problem, okay, is they'll say, all right, we'll say this is 16 and this is 25. Okay, they may ask you what the area of this is. Well, we know that these two will add to make 25, right? So what would the area of the A square be? 9. Okay, and if you know that's a Pythagorean theorem problem, that becomes a very simple problem. If you don't recognize this shape, okay, then it's a little bit more confusing. Okay, if they were to ask you what the side length of A is, well, we know this is 9, so what would the side length of A be? The side length, it'd be 3. Okay, remember, to go from the area to side length, we just square root it, right? Square root of 9 is 3. So 3 times 3 would give us that 9, right? Okay, that's an important concept. If you have a square, the area is what's inside of it. The length is the side. Okay, the area is found by taking the length. Whoa, the length. I misspelled that. The length times the length, right? So it's saying what number times itself equals that area. Well, that is the definition of square root. What number times itself equals the area? That's going to be the length. Okay. So as we get into actual problems, okay, let me give you a really basic one right off the bat. Not likely to get very many just straight up problems like this one. Okay, let's say this is 7 and 24. Okay, what is it that we're solving for? The hypotenuse, which is our C. We don't know C. Okay, so we take our Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. All right, we know that 7 can be our A. Now, it doesn't matter. It could be 7 or 24 for A. The legs can be A or B. It doesn't matter. So we'll say 7 squared, all right, plus we've got 24 squared equals C squared. We don't know what the C is. Okay, so if we put these in our calculator, all right, 7 squared you should be able to do in your head is 49. 24 squared, you might need to use a calculator. That would be 576. Is all equal to C squared, which we still don't know. Okay, These first steps here are the same no matter what you're solving for, A, B, or C. Doesn't matter. It's going to look just like that. Now, since we're solving for a hypotenuse, we're going to add. If we were solving for a leg, this would be the point where we would subtract. That's the only time it gets different. We'll look at a missing leg next. So if I add these together, okay, 49 plus 576 is 625, okay, is equal to c squared. All right. Our final step, which is why we covered this a little bit earlier, is to square root both sides. Because the square root of c squared is just c, which is what we're solving for, right? We don't care what c squared is. We want to know what c is equal to. So we square root both sides. The square root of 625 is 25. And now we know the side length.
Nice.
Yes, sir.
Could you just do 7 squared plus 24 squared? Because I did it and I still got the answer. If you did, like, if you would have done like 29 plus 50, 576.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, are you saying you plugged in this in your calculator and got 625?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I just did it step by step. Your calculator does it all at once. Yes, sir.
Will we be able to, like, if we want to, take, like, the formula chart out and, like, put it on the side, like, rip the chart section apart?
Not only can you, I expect you to. All right, the state probably spends thousands of dollars to make this to where they tear out real easy. So let's not waste tax money. Tear the formula charts out and use them.
I always do that.
All right. So that's solving for a missing hypotenuse. Let's look at one that solves for a leg. Again, you're going to see it's very similar, but there are going to be a few changes. Okay. So we have our right triangle. Okay. We have 12 and 15. What are we missing?
The leg.
The leg. You want it to be A or B? A. Why not? Doesn't matter. Okay, we don't know A. So again, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. You should always write that out because that takes you 10 seconds to do, if that. Okay, and then we'll plug in. First off, we'll plug in our leg that we do know. Okay, we don't know A squared. We know that B is going to be 12 squared, and C is going to be 15 squared. All right, we can go ahead and square those out so that you get A squared plus 144 equals 225. Now, at this point, all right, again, first 3 steps, very much the same, right? Plug in what's missing, square them, and you get down to this point here. Now, when it's a missing leg, rather than add, since they're on opposite sides of the equal sign, now we're going to do the opposite of that. We're going to subtract. Okay, so I'll subtract 144 from both sides. I picked 144 because I want A squared to be by itself, right? Okay, so that's an important step here. Subtract 144 from both sides. You get that A squared is equal to 81. Just like in the last one, our last step is to square root both sides. And we get that A is equal to 9. Fair enough? Okay. All right. Now, again, all I'm reviewing right now is the most basic concepts, solving for a missing side, okay? And they're not too tricky. Now, there is something that they will do to you. A couple things they'll do to you, all right? The first is they may give you a long word problem, something that looks like this, and they'll say, you know, this is 2, and this is 13, and this is 9, or something along the lines, okay? And you'll see the right triangle, and you'll solve for the missing side, all right? And I'm not sure what the missing side is there, but I'm not going to worry about it. But let's say you solve it, okay? And then we'll forget that we need to add that 2, because they'll ask for the height of whatever the thing is, okay? So all I'm saying, if it's a word problem, make sure you're reading exactly what it's asking for, because I think it's unfair. I think if they want to know, if you know Pythagorean theorem, they should just ask you Pythagorean theorem. But, of course, they're going to try to trick you, because they love tricking teenagers, I guess. But
what's
just
the point of the STAAR test? Because half of the stuff we learn on it, we're going to have to know
Yes, you need to know.
all right. But anyway, make sure that we add that 2 if they want us to. Okay? All right, so just read the question is all I'm saying. All right, now, I want to talk about something that we messed up major on our benchmark. Okay, it's one of the reasons that we're talking about this. Okay, when we had a graph, all right, they're going to give you 2 points on the graph. We'll call that A, we'll call that B, and they're going to say, about how far apart is A and B? Okay, and for the most part, and I mean for the most part, like 70-something% of you guys, this is how y'all chose to solve it. Y'all said, well, it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 11. All right, and you can't do that. All right, because you're straight up guessing. Okay? These are really easy problems. Okay? Super easy. All you have to do is see how much you go up, then how much you go over. It creates a right triangle. All right? And what part of the right triangle are we missing?
The hypotenuse.
The hypotenuse. Okay? And you can literally count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Does everybody see how this works?
Yes.
All right, now, that's going to give you, if you put 7 squared plus 10 squared in your calculator, you'll get 149 is equal to C squared. There is no square root of 149. Okay? But if you put it in your calculator, you're going to get something that's close. That's what that sign right there means. It's close. Okay? So if I say the square root of 149 in my calculator, it's going to give me 12.2065562. It's going to go on forever because it's an irrational number. But that's really, really close to 12.2. All right. Let's play that smart. That's not a hard problem, but we made it hard. Okay? Because in your mind, a lot of you, I think, knew that you could use Pythagorean theorem, but a lot of you were like, well, it'd just be easier to just try to count it. And when you do that, it's really not easier. It's just you're wasting time at that point because you're never going to guess it correctly. Okay? So let's make sure that we aren't tripped up by problems like that. Okay? Now, what I want to do just to kind of end this lesson with a little bit of review, I'm going to give you 2 problems. Okay, if you're watching this on the video, you can pause the video once I have them drawn and you can try to solve them. Everybody in this class is going to solve them regardless. And then we'll go over them and kind of see how you did. Alright, so we'll say this is 30. This is 40. This is 41. And this is 40. Okay? So, I want to know the missing length. Okay? Again, I'm going to pause the video, so if you're watching the video, you want to pause it too so you have time to actually solve them. Okay. So, if you did these correctly, the answer to number 1 here would have been 50. The answer to number 2 here would have been 3. Oh no, I'm sorry, 9. I'm sorry. My bad. I saw my answer and I square rooted it on instinct. Okay, so you should have taken here 30 squared plus 40 squared equals c squared. Okay, that would have given you 2,500 is equal to c squared. You square root both sides to get that 50 is your c. Okay, on the right you would have said 41 squared, and then you would have ended up subtracting the 40 squared. Okay, and that would have given you 81 is equal to your c squared. You square root both sides, and you would get that c is equal to 9. Okay, so yeah, got to make sure that we remember what happened to, oh yeah.
Coach, your right angles don't have right angles.
Oh no. You got to remember that if we have both legs, you're going to be adding those. If you've got a leg and a hypotenuse, you're going to end up subtracting. Okay, that's the big thing to remember there. And it'll lead you to that if you just use the formula.
The legs you add and then the big one you subtract.
If you're missing the big one, the hypotenuse, you'll add.
You'll add,
If you're missing the leg,
you'll subtract.
you'll subtract. Okay.
Oh,
All right. I'm gonna give you one more.
Oh, it's 10 and 11.
Okay, this is gonna be a little bit easier for those of you watching the video, but for those of you in the classroom, we're still gonna do it. I want you guys to tell me how far apart points A and B are from each other. Okay, paused. All right, so to solve this, I saw a lot of you in here actually doing the right thing. We want to create a right triangle. All right, so we know we're going to go up. We know we're going to go over. And we're going to end up solving for the hypotenuse right here. So a lot of you counted it out correctly. This was 3. This was 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay. That was probably the hardest thing since it's so far away from you. But on the STAAR test, obviously, it'll be right in front of you. Okay. So we have 3 and 8. We're missing the hypotenuse. Okay. Which means, are we going to be adding or subtracting? Adding. Good. All right. So we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That would be 3 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. 3 squared is 9. 8 squared is 64. Those add together to make 73. There is no square root of 73, but we're going to try to estimate it. So c will be something close to about 8.5. All right, so I think that Pythagorean theorem, and I've heard a lot of you say this already, is, oh, this isn't as hard as I thought it was, or I had forgotten this, but it's actually really easy. It really is. It's one of the easier things that we do in 8th grade, and that's great because they ask a lot of questions over it. So this is one of those things that you need to be prepared for, because if you're prepared for it, you almost automatically get these right, because these are super simple. Okay? So make sure that you rewatch this video, that you look over your notes. If you didn't make notes today, make notes when you rewatch the video. Okay? Make sure that you're prepared for this, because, like you saw in the benchmark, they're going to ask about 4 questions over these. All right? Remember, you only needed like 24 questions to pass the test. These are 4 that could be automatic if you understand how to do it. Okay? So this is a great thing to study. Okay? Tomorrow we'll look at transformations. I'll make a video on that too. I'll send these out on a remind. Guys, I'm putting the ball in your court. Prepare yourselves, and I think that we're going to have some success when it comes to testing time. All right.